different types, different preparations of plants. So I work with leaves, flowers, roots, barks, lots of different preparations of the plants, and I prescribe them to my patients. So my patients come, they have their disease. It's a really holistic treatment. We look at all aspects of the person, and then different plants come into play, and then I make a prescription. So that's kind of my medicine is plant medicine. I'm also a soap maker, so I use plants topically as well. So I put lots of different herbs in all my soaps because they've got benefits for the skin, and also because I love them and I just like having myself covered in in as many herbs as I can. So yeah, so I've been making soap for about 15 years, and I've got a little company, and I've been a herbalist proper for just over a year. So it's quite a long journey to have got where I've got to, and it's evolved over the years. It's a lot of study to become a medical herbalist, and it incorporates kind of as much as kind of a doctor would study in lots of ways, as well as having the plant side on top. But it was really Cayman where it all kind of started for me. And it was with a plant called fever grass. Do you all know fever grass?
Yes,
lemongrass,
very much.
Very much.
For tea.
Yes. Yep. So I had I had a bush in the garden, and I used to have a guy called Erik who used to come and help with my garden sometimes, just coming and chatting most of the time. But he would talk to me about some of the plants. And when he mentioned, first of all, he said to me about fever grass and about how if I had a fever, I could boil it up with some lime and drink it. And I'd always, since I've been little, I was picking cerasee pods, and I was like eating guineps, tamarinds, sea grapes, every bit of fruit you could imagine. I clean the island up with fruit. But I'd never actually used plants as medicine, and I found it so. It was a huge thing for me to pick those leaves, boil it up, and offer the medicine that the plant had, for me to be able to receive that and know how to do it. So that kind of got me on to plants being more than food, so more than foraging, plants being actual medicine, and that you can find them and you can look around them and you can get to know them in your gardens and in the bush all around you, and start working with these plants in a different way to help you and your family. So it all kind of began with that lemongrass, fever grass plant in my garden, which we can't really grow in England, unfortunately. But yeah, it kind of all sort of stemmed from there. So I thought what I'd do today is come here with a plant from England. So there's quite a few people from England that are here today. And I think, when I think back on Cayman, I think about my relationship with Cayman according to the plants. I remember going and picking knickers to make for my worry board, or, I just really, it helped me feel at home in a place because I knew the plants were there. And when I came back to England sort of as a teenager and kind of I came back again, say in my early 20s, I felt really disconnected from the land. I didn't know the plants that were around me in England. I remembered all these things from Cayman, but I didn't know what was growing around me in England. And I was thinking about this before this talk, and I realised actually, when I started to see the plants that grew around me now, predominantly the weeds, which are my favourite plants, I started to feel a greater sense of connection with where I was. And I think plants have an amazing ability to do this, especially the weeds, because not everybody lives in, a picture postcard countryside scene. A lot of us live in towns and cities, and really the plants that we see are the plants that grow in the cracks, that grow along the side of pavements, that grow like climbing up, like a cerasee would in Cayman, climbing up metal fencing. These are the plants that we're exposed to all the time, and it just is incredible because all these plants are huge medicines for us. Nettle, dandelion, cleavers. These are the weeds of the land, but they are, they're people's medicine. They're all about us. So I thought what I'd do is introduce you to a plant called Cleavers. And what I've done, can you see? If I put that there. Right, can anybody see this? It's probably be quite hard.
Yeah.
Hang on. So it grows up the side of hedges. It's really sticky. Hang on, there. Can you see?
Yeah.
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 It's really, really sticky. It's related to the coffee plant, and it has these.
Throw at each other.
Yeah, it's the one that you.
Throw on someone's back when they're not. When they're
Can you
not.
see?
Looking.
It's like stuck on my arm.
I know the one. Okay.
It wants to get to know, to get humans, to get our attention so much that it'll stick to us. We'll walk past it and it'll stick to us. Well, it's an amazing spring herb. I don't know. I've done a little video on it actually, so I can send someone a video if anybody wants to like look at how to gather it and what to do with it. But it's an amazing herb to get to know. A, because it's super safe, so there's no real contraindications with it. Everyone can use it. And all you have to do is you pick some cleavers from a place where a dog hasn't weed and it's not dirty, and you put it in a jar of cold water, and then what you're going to do is you're going to make a cold water infusion. So sometimes when you have your jars of water and you put a piece of cucumber in it or something like that, it's like a cold infusion. Well, this is with a plant called Cleavers, and this is for our lymphatic system. So it is amazing. Just imagine you've got like a toilet brush going down your lymphatic system, cleaning it out, getting your lymphatic system to move, clearing all the kind of waste from winter out from in between your tissues. So it supports our immune system. It is an incredible lymphatic herb, and the lymphatic system needs all the help it can get because movement helps move your lymph. It doesn't move on its own. You can have a lymphatic massage, or you can do exercise to move your lymph because it needs the muscle movement to move it. So a herb like this is incredible to use at this time of year in spring. And it's also a really great herb because you start to notice it everywhere, and then it tunes you into the season. So you know what's happening. You go, oh, you start noticing other spring herbs. It's a really great gateway herb. And now's the time to gather it. So you'll see it alongside nettle and dandelions. And when you pick it, it's got this, it's really hard to do this on Zoom, sorry everyone, but it's got like a little strand inside. Can you see?
A little bit of, yeah, that's it. All right, like a
A
stringy.
stringy strand right down the center of it. It's a herb of the moon. We classify herbs by, planetary stuff as well. It's a water herb, so it's a cooling herb, really great for this time of year. Just moving everything and cooling everything. You can use it for, topically, you can make a poultice if you've got psoriasis or something like that, or sunburn. So you get the plant and you crunch it up and you apply it to like sunburn or burns. You can use it as well, actually. It's also great for when you've got a nettle sting. You can get the juice off it and you can apply the juice to your nettle sting, and it helps to get rid of the sting from nettle. It does loads of things, but I'm aware that I'm 3 minutes past my 10 minutes. It's a bit nerve-wracking talking this way.
Don't worry about that.
I've also made it into so I juice it in my juicer and then I mix it with honey. 50% juice and well, so I'll drink it. It looks like it tastes like green apples. It's an amazing herb. It also makes you wee a bit more, so it's good if you've got any kind of edema or something like that, any swelling in the tissues, water retention, good things for that. And historically, traditionally, it was used to help with weight gain, so it helped to lose weight. That's what some of the old herbalists used to use it for. So what else have I forgotten to tell you about? Oh, the most amazing thing. I'm going to read some of its names. So its Latin name is Gallium aperine, but people call it, so its country names are barweed, hedge sheriff, gripgrass, catchweed, robin run in the grass, love man, goosebill, everlasting friendship, sticky weed, sticky willy. It's a herb with all these different names. So to me, that says, I mean, who do you give nicknames to?
People you love.
Favorites.
People you know, people you love, people, this is a plant that we have known for a long, long, long time. We have coexisted alongside each other. And it just comes at spring where we need its medicine. It's an amazing plant. Later on in the year, you can get the little, the seeds, and you can dry them and you can make a substitute coffee. It takes a long time and you have to be very committed, but you can do it. So, sorry, that was a whistle stop tour. But yeah, so I'm bringing you today Cleavers, Gallium Aperine, Sticky Willy, all yours.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Katie.
Pleasure.
Wow. I already want to jump outside. I haven't seen, off the top of my head, I haven't seen any of that yet, but now I know what to look for.
Now you'll get your eye and you'll start seeing it.
Yeah, and it's an example, a really good example, and I'm glad you've chosen something that that we call a weed, because it's a really good example of something that, you know, as I say, I would just play with or brush past and not even think of, other than something that's either a bit or a bit fun. You know, to me that was kind of it. So interesting to as an eye opener to see how much these plants will do.
I think that's it. Once you get your eye and you start noticing what's around you, then you have a sense of where you are in the season, where you are in the work on the earth. You know, for people not in Cayman, they're in a whole new environment. So if you start noticing the plants that are around you in the new place that you're at, you start feeling a sense of, I'm not such a stranger here. You know, I'm knowing it. That's what, for me, that's what they kind of.
I love that concept. I love when you first said that, I said, wow. And, you know, for what we do with Cayman Connection and keeping people connected, and also we have quite a lot about that feeling of far away from home and not feeling like you really understand the environment. But I'd never thought of it in terms of plants or nature. And it's so it just shows it's just another aspect of how different ways can make you feel more at home or make you feel connected. And so your story is about coming from understanding Cayman plants to feeling the real need to understand UK plants to help you feel more comfortable in that environment. To me,
you're part, to be part of where you are.
Yeah.
Does
anyone have any questions for Katie? Anything that you'd like to ask about that particular herb or any others, or her experience in Cayman? I'll give you an opportunity.
I think I'm curious about natural remedies for things like hyperpigmentation or melasma, anything to do with skin type stuff. I don't know if perhaps maybe on your website, or if there's poultices or things that you would make to create masks for. We were joking about this in another meeting. We were saying that some of us have like 3 or 4 or 5 shades of foundation, because depending on where we are, you know, with the seasons, if we're in Cayman, I'm a totally different color than here, depending on the time of year. But anyways, as a result of probably too much sun exposure, there's a lot of stuff. So it's a very personal question, but I was just wondering if you come across things like that in your work, things that people.
It's difficult. It's difficult because I don't work that there's this herb for that kind of thing, because it depends on the person and it depends on what's happening in that person as to which herb you would kind of bring in. There's lots of seed oils that are helpful. So like seed oil, you know, like face oils, like lots of different oils that are made from seeds, like rosehip oil and things like that can be really helpful. But it depends if it's from an autoimmune. So it depends if it's vitiligo or something, because then that's a whole nother way of like treating somebody.
So you treat also, I mean, the kind of just, I would say, topical stuff, but also people that are having other issues that could be causing.
We work from inside, from the root of the disease. So to do that, we need to really focus on what's happening to this person now in this body, kind of thing. So it's not, you know, if it's dry skin, I can give you something that will help your dry skin. But if the dry skin is because of systemic dryness, then you know, nutrition will come in, and herbs to kind of work through that systemic dryness to kind of bring your body back into balance, so that it's like you're clearing stuff through your liver properly, your gut's working well, your kidneys are working well. So all your processes of, like with eczema or something, all your processes of elimination are all working, so your body is more in a flow. But things like for skin stuff, to work with the lymphatic system, which is improving lymphatic flow, is getting rid of waste toxins and metabolites in your body. You know, this is a lovely place to start with a herb like Cleavers as well.
So as like a tea.
Yeah.
Understood. Perfect. Thank you.
Oh, gone.
Awesome.
I hope that helped.
Good. Yes, yes, absolutely, Katie.
Thanks for joining, and thanks for joining those that came in. And thank you so much, Katie, for that. Thank you, Rita, for the question. We had a little joke because we met a little earlier before starting, Erik and Katie and I had to dash off a quick cup of tea while we were getting ready. And I knew that when these two met, it would be, and they were off and they were on to talking about plants, and I already couldn't understand. And so it was really beautiful. So I will pass on to Erik now. Thank you so much, Katie. We'll have a chance for some more discussion and chat afterwards. If anyone's got any other questions for Katie, we can take that afterwards for sure, if you're still here. Erik, please, as I said, tell us a little bit about you, your background, and what brought you into the world of plants, and then your choice of plant.
Thank you, Kate. I appreciate it. Hey, everybody. Nice to meet everyone. So I just want to piggyback real quick what Katie was talking about with the local plants. I think it's really important that we identify the plants that are locally where we're living, because I've learned the plants that are growing locally are most applicable to the conditions that are happening in that area. So a good example, when I was in Guatemala, in Latin America, where dengue and malaria is very common, one of my traveling companions had got dengue fever, and they had a bunch of local remedies, plants that you can use to treat the dengue. So I think everywhere you live in the world, there's plants that grow right in your doorstep that are, I guess, beneficial to illnesses that you can contract wherever you're living in that area. So I think they go hand in hand with, it's good to be aware of medicines that grow in another country, but learning what grows in your backyard, I think is huge for learning medicines that you can really use for yourself on a day-to-day basis. So, and then to introduce myself properly. So I am Caymanian. I grew up in Cayman, and when I was 13, I left and went to the States. I went to a boarding school, and after it was academia boarding school. And when I completed high school, I joined the military, and I did 6 years in the Air Force. And during my time, I did many tours and deployments all over, and I did 2 Afghanistan tours. And coming back from the war, it had a real impact on me, and it shifted my perspective of things in life that were my priorities. So I separated, I finished my 6 years in the Air Force, and after that, I kind of had a spiritual awakening. I had a kind of a profound experience, and I decided that I wanted to go and backpack and unplug from society for a little bit. So I went backpacking for 3 years through Latin America. I started in Panama and worked up to Mexico, and then went back down in Panama and hitchhiked a bike in a boat over to Colombia, then went down all the way to Peru. And I was on my way to, I've been 9 months in Peru. In each of these countries, I spent time learning local medicine. So it's a journey of 3 years. So it wasn't just a 2-week or a month. I spent many months in these countries working with locals. I didn't really do the hostel or the hotel thing. I had a jungle hammock. So I would sleep in the backyard of many locals or communities or schools or different places, and spend time learning and actually a lot of times cultivating a lot of the plants. So from start to finish, from seed to germination to cultivating the plant to harvesting it and then processing the medicines as well. So I spent a lot of time working with different applications of the medicines, which is, we use a lot of them in modern medicine now, even in herbalism, but there's a lot that kind of still not practiced as much. So for me, it was really important there's a lot of roots of how herbal medicines were used throughout the world. But for me, growing up in the Caribbean, I felt a lot of my traditional roots had a lot of ties to Latin America. Especially my father is actually originally from Guyana, and his father's a West Bayer. So I do have roots in South America. So when I was backpacking, I was also doing workshops because I learned about one of my super plants, which is the one I'm going to talk about today. And it's a real amazing plant. And I started doing workshops in all of the countries, free workshops, and donating seeds of the plant as well, and empowering and educating people how to use this plant in a lot of different applications, not just as a medicine for themselves and their family, but also ways that you can use it in agriculture and also in livestock. So it's a really diverse, quite amazing plant. So I've been working with it for about 8 years now. And to go back to Peru, so I was 9 months in Peru, and I was on my way to Bolivia. I decided I was going to continue my journey, and my backpack, when I was in the capital of Peru, Lima, it got stolen, which had my passport in it, and I had to go to the embassy, get an emergency passport, and which is good for 30 days. And I came back to Cayman, and I've been back in Cayman for about 5 years now. And since back being in Cayman, I've decided to go back to school to become a nutritionist. So since I've been here, I've obtained a certificate in plant-based nutrition and an associate's in applied nutrition, and I'm about a year out from my bachelor's in nutrition. So, and while I've been back here, I've spent a lot of time working with the National Trust, some time with the YMCA, some of the local schools, doing presentations on herbal remedies, Caymanian herbal remedies, because I think there's a real gap in our roots, our tradition, and where we are today. And I think one of the best ways that how we're sick today is to heal us by going back to our roots, whether it's eating natural whole foods and incorporating natural medicines or plants. Hippocrates said, "Let thy medicine be thy food, and thy food be thy medicine." So essentially, it goes hand in hand. Plants and medicine, or food and medicine, is the same thing. So I've chosen today to speak about. It's really hard to choose one. I mean, there's so many to. Sorry, I think there's some weed blowers. You guys don't hear me? Some weed blowers in the background.
It's a bit of noise, but we can hear you.
Here, I'll step inside for a few minutes.
Yeah, I don't want to interrupt you.
Sorry about that.
Fascinating. No worries.
No. Here, I'll go inside.
How dare he blow away the weeds? We love the weeds.
I know, and funny that we were just speaking on what's weeds, because actually I don't think anything is really a weed. I think it's just lack of knowledge, or science just hasn't come around to identifying what is medicinal. So a lot of things I think are that are not weeds, but we just haven't identified applications for them. So we just call them weeds, and we just don't think there's any benefit or any use for them. But really, I think every single plant has an application. We just don't know how to use it. So the plant, I'll go back outside in a second, because I do have my demonstration set up with some kind of live touch or some live plants that you can see, or the live plant. But just to finish up, I chose this plant. It's more of a, I would say what I call a more of a new school plant than an old school. It doesn't have a lot of folk history of use in the island. I do know that it's been on island at least 3 generations from some of the different Caymanians I've spoken with. But beyond that, I don't know how many more years beyond, 50 years or so that it's been used. I do think I've chosen the plant because it's for me, one of the most superstar plants. There's what we call, or is commonly used nowadays, superfoods. So I would say this is one of the top ones and hence why I've always kind of gravitated to it and continued to work with it over the years. It's something that can easily be used once you identify it. You can use it in your tea. You can use every single part of the plant. So let me see if these kind of passed and I can. Still, well, if it's too bad, you guys can. Is it still bad? How bad is it, guys?
It's fine. It's quite loud.
fine.
It's fine. Carry on. We'll manage.
It's fine. Okay. All right. So I'm gonna show you guys some of the plants. Okay. So it's moringa, as you can already see. So the moringa plant, I think is really amazing. Has anybody heard of the moringa plant? Cool. So it's briefly, I'm kind of going to talk on it a little bit. I'll start with the flowers. As you guys can see the flowers here, it's a really beautiful flower. It has kind of like an orchid shape to it. So and every part of the moringa tree is medicinal, which is for me really amazing, because not many plants every single bit is medicinal, and that it's safe to use. So the moringa flower, you can actually put raw right into a salad. It's quite of a soft taste. It has a little bit of a sharpness to it, but not too much. And it's quite pleasant. And you can use it in a tea as well, as along with the leaves, which are most commonly, here I can try to kind of see how it looks, how the layout is. And you can see this kind of shape that you see here with the leaves. That's a very characteristic of the moringa leaf. And also these kind of the oval shape that you see of the leaf itself. That is a dead giveaway of how to identify the plant. As you can kind of see on the book here, they kind of have the same leaf structure. So the leaves are really easy to be used. One of the most common ways that you guys can still why I chose it is that even though it grows in Cayman and in tropical regions, because it's such a popular plant, I know the weed blower is killing us, that you guys can still get access to this plant. So this is just a powder that is of moringa leaves, and you can get this whether it's just raw powder or if it's in a capsulized form. You can get moringa just about everywhere now because it's so popular, and it's such a superfood. So and just to give a quick snapshot of some of the benefits, it has over 90 nutrients. It has all the amino acids. They've used it on so many different forms for conditions and illnesses. It's beneficial. So it's something very easy that the powder, whether you take it in a capsule and you're just taking the pills, but when it's in a powder form, if you're getting it in a supplement store, you can just put it in your smoothies or you can cook with it. I just sprinkle it over my food, just like any kind of other salt or pepper. So it's something really easy to incorporate. And it is actually, I have read about people growing it in regions where you guys are now, but they'll just grow it in a small pot at a window ledge where it can get sunlight through the window through the winter. And then during the summer, they'll put it outside where it can get sunlight. So you still maybe to give it a shot. It might be hard to get seeds, but you can get them online fairly easy. These are what the seeds will look like. So here's some. Kind of see, and actually I have a better demonstration. So these are the pods, and it's really a popular plant in India and Thailand, the Philippines. They'll cook with these pods. So this is kind of they'll still get ones that's a little bit more young than this. So and what it is, they'll be very soft, and they'll cook with them. And I've had it before. It's really tasty. It's quite good, even when it's a little bit larger in size, like this size, but quite maybe in between. They'll cook them in their dishes, and it's really tasty. Once the seed pod develops to a little bit of a bigger size, it'll mature and it'll get to like a brown color. And then inside, let me see if I can do it with one hand, is we'll have the seeds. See, this one's not too. good looking. It's a little bit of the seeds are a little off, but you can still kind of see how they'll have like these, they're called winglets. So when it's in the wind, when they're dropping, they'll get to blow around. And the seeds themselves are antibiotics. So you can eat the seeds. There's a shell that you on the seed itself that you can peel the shell, and there's like a little bit of a, you could kind of say a pearl of what the seed is inside, and you can eat that seed as an antibiotic. So in Africa, what's quite amazing is that they'll use the seeds to purify water. So where they'll have murky, very disgusting water, and they'll take those seeds and crush them up and mix them into the water and let it sit for a few hours. And you can, I usually do it in my demonstrations, demonstration in my presentation. And you'll see I'll have two jars, and the one with the seeds in it, they'll slowly take all the dirt and bacteria and push it to the bottom of the container. All the water above of it is safe and sterile to drink. So it's something that you can even use the seeds to purify water, and the roots themselves have benefits as well. So every part of the plant has medicinal applications, and you can use that in a tea. It's very easy to consume it, or the powder of the leaves. And when I was in Guatemala, we noticed that the chickens started eating our little baby moringa sprouts. We were getting little baby trees, and the chickens started laying double eggs daily. Instead of an egg a day, they started doing 2 eggs a day. And when I was also in Panama, I worked with a university that's been doing a 10 plus year study with moringa. They had identified that when giving it to cattle, that they would double their milk production. So they would produce, instead of a liter a day, they would go into 2 liters a day of producing milk. So you can use it for your livestock. And they've also did some studies where you can take the leaves and just blend the leaves up and mix it into water, and you can just spray it lightly on your other plants and use it as a natural fertilizer as well. And plant production increase. So the studies show that like produce like pumpkin, sugarcane, papaya, a variety of different fruit. The fruit not only grew in size and was more colorful and more tasty, but the nutritional value was higher as well. So it's a plant, you can use it on all types of forms, whether it's your animals. I've also seen someone started mixing the leaves, the dried leaves in with their dog food, and the dog had Alzheimer's. So it stopped going up to the second floor of the house, up the stairs, because it was too painful for his joints. And after 2 months of consuming it as food, the pain started going away, and the dog would go up the stairs and start to go outside and had no more problems. So I've seen it work in a lot of different ways. So I'll end it there. If anybody has any questions, I'll do my best to keep it short as possible.
Wow, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Gosh, there's so much there. Katie has a question, and then we'll put it to the floor. That's really brilliant. Thank you. Gosh, my head's a bit blown. Brilliant.
Oh, you're muted, Katie.
Ah, that was brilliant. Thank you. Really loved seeing that. I'm just curious, because you know when you eat the seed, it tastes really, to me, it tastes disgusting. And then when you drink water, it's sweet.
So that's huge. That's my little giveaway. So that's a good question. You know, from my knowledge, I'd have to do a little bit more research into what's biologically going on in your taste buds. But it is one of the kind of like little, I guess, games, kind of like a little treat that I do with my moringa presentations when I'm doing it just specifically on moringa. I'll have the participants who's brave enough to try the moringa seed.
But some people like it.
Yeah, you know
it's really weird.
For me, I'll tell you a little secret. Most people, the people that have very natural taste buds, so everybody's taste buds within a 2 to 3 week. There's been a study done about it that within a short period of time, they said within 2 to 3 weeks, their taste buds can change. So if you're on a diet. I'm studying to be a nutritionist. So people that are, let's say, are on a very high processed, refined diet, ultra processed foods, and their taste buds are adapted to that and tuned into that, then wholesome foods don't really entertain them or is enticing or is as stimulating. Well, slowly but surely, if you transition to the natural wholesome foods, your taste buds will readapt to where now those foods do really actually taste good. An apple, or whether in the tropics here it's a mango or something that's juicy, a fruit will actually taste very sweet, whereas in before a candy bar was your definition of a sweet. So when you're working with the moringa, I think people's taste buds that are very wholesome, when they eat those seeds, it still has a profile of like a nutty taste, like a seed taste to them, to where it doesn't, it's not as pungent, it's not as sharp. But why it turns sweet, I, from my little knowledge of it, it has to do with the oils that's in the seed. So those oils, essentially what's happening when it's purifying that water, it's repelling bacteria because it's of a higher buoyancy. So in your tongue, I think what it's doing, it's kind of like, I forgot what the fruit is called, but there's a type of fruit that's of a similar characteristic.
They use it in Indian and Ayurvedic medicine to cut people's sugar craving.
Okay, yeah, so it's super sweet. It's really sweet. So I think it has to do with something with just the taste buds, how it it like overstimulates them, and then anything that's after that just tastes sweet. So what to fill everybody else in the audience what we're talking about, or with the moringa seeds, something that I always do, is that it's quite amazing. It's really interesting. Where you crack open the shell around it, and you have the pearl. And I usually just tell people to have a little piece of the seed instead of the whole thing, so it's not so strong the first experience. But either or, it's got quite of a little bit of a bite to it. It's not overpowering, but it can be for some people, and some people it's not so pleasant at all. But what's quite funny is that within less than a minute afterwards, if you consume some water, and however much thereafter, the water gets sweeter and sweeter and sweeter, to where you really think that there's like sugar in the water. It tastes like sugar water, and it's a really far out experience. And it happens for a good 5 minutes or so. You'll be drinking water, or anything that you kind of drink will just taste sweet.
Amazing.
Anybody else have any questions or anything?
No.
I have one more, but I can do it another time.
No. Go ahead, it seems like you're the only one.
Sorry. Somebody else has got one.
No, go ahead, Katie. Go ahead.
It's a quick
I'll go
one.
after you.
We went to Jamaica, and we were given some moringa seeds, and the guy who gave us them, he said it'll go wherever it needs to go. It'll do wherever there's a problem in your body, the moringa will go and do its thing. And my husband had a bad belly. His belly was bad. Anyway, so I had the moringa, I was fine, nothing happened. He had the moringa and it cleared his belly out. He just went to the toilet. It was fascinating. It was like, it's just gone where it needed to go.
It's so, out of all the plants, I've studied hundreds of plants, and I keep coming back to this plant. It's one of the books that I have, and one of the most common names for it that is identified now is called the miracle tree, because it cures so many different conditions. It's just amazing. You can look up studies after studies that they've done with the leaves of this, and in Africa or places where there's malnourishment, it's a huge problem in the world today. They use the moringa leaves in India and Africa. It's one of their main staples to help boost the nutrients of not just the population, but especially in the youth. They spend a lot of time using the plant in schools to help improve the nutritional intake of children. So I think it's really an amazing plant to be used in all different ways. And
it grows in drought.
Yeah, so I was about to quickly say, in Africa, they call it the never die tree. So one of the coolest stories I heard about the tree and working with it in Africa, shamans or medicine men, depending where you are, what their name that they go by. But when they're a traveling medicine man, he'll make a walking stick out of the branch of the moringa tree, and he'll travel across, and wherever he decides to settle down, he'll just put the stick into the ground and it'll just start to grow. And I've seen it first-handedly. I've seen it time and time again. Depending on the thickness of the branch, anywhere for even up to 2 months, 3 months after it can even just be a couple feet in length, and you just put it in the ground and it'll just start to root and start to sprout and start to grow again. So it just never dies. It's just a strong tree.
That's amazing. Thank you for everything you've said. Amazing.
That's I didn't realize that about it. Yeah, even with the powder, if you have water afterwards, everything is
Yes.
sweet.
No, so there are powders that they do make. It's not very common that you'll see a powder that is made with the seeds. I have seen ones, especially ones that are from India, that have like a different ratio, have leaf to seed in a blend, in a mixture in that powder. So you'll have seeds and the leaves. But it's not as common. You'll mostly see the leaves is what most 9 out of 10 times you'll see. But you can buy supplements that have the leaves, I mean the seeds itself, that's made from the seeds, and it's usually a capsulized, or it could be a raw powder, and that would give you that kind of sweet benefit, sweet taste. But it wouldn't be as pungent as if it was like a fresh seed, because the oils in that seed are stronger when it's still wholesome. Instead of it being processed, it'll kind of lose some of the oil, so it won't be as strong.
But actually, the powder I had in Cayman had the same result. So
Wow,
I don't,
cool.
I couldn't, I'm only now learning that it's the seed that causes that kind of a sweet taste. But the powder that I had in Cayman, on several occasions afterwards, when we drank water, it was sweet. So maybe it was one that was blended, and we didn't know. I wanted to ask what kind of experience, if any, you've had with ayahuasca, and seeing as you were in Latin America and South America, because it's just a lot of people are now using it for trauma. I mean, for other reasons as well.
So I spent a lot of time working with what they call sacred medicines, or master plants. And in different countries all across the world, they have different teacher plants, master teacher plants. And in Latin America, I spent quite a bit of time working with, they call it yahe as well. In Colombia, I spent a month living with an indigenous community, with a community, and specifically a family. And I helped them build what's called a temescal. It's like an adobe out of natural materials. And I guess as a gift, as in return, the family invited me to participate in ayahuasca ceremony with them. So in Colombia, they do it with the whole family, the whole community. It was about 40, 50 people, and the whole family, the young brother, little sister, aunt, uncle, everybody, the whole family drinks together. If it's children, they drink their relative to their size. So they would drink a smaller portion, as if it's like, let's say you're having a family dinner and you let your child have a small little sip of wine, and you're allowed to have a glass or two. So that's kind of how it would be. And when I was in Ecuador and in Peru, it's a very different practice. It's more of a one-on-one with the shaman. When I was in Peru, I spent 6 months with a shaman in the jungle, living with him, and to the point where we went harvest the plants, which took a couple of days. Then we came back, we brewed it, which took 12 hours, and it's very intense brewing. It's a lot of work. And after the brew, you're left with what's kind of like a molasses, kind of like a syrup. They call it wine of the forest. And I drank with him many, many times, maybe about 30, 40 times. I've participated in ayahuasca. So it's really an amazing plant. It's a combination of plants, actually. And the spirits behind the plants, I think, is really what's gravitated my interest when working with them over the years, because of how much they heal. I've seen them over the years, upwards to maybe 200 or 300 people, but groups usually I've never worked or participated in a group more than 6 or 7 people. General groups are 1 to up to 4 people, and there are different plants I've worked with over the years, and it's just amazing, really, really, really amazing to see how it heals people in all different shapes and forms. Not just mental, but physical. And to me, I think I look at it as a 3-dimensional, as it's physical, mental, and spiritual, and all 3 of them are connected. So it's amazing to see how these plants work with people and their ability to heal people from all over the world and all different types of, I guess, not, I don't think people, I don't want to classify them as we're sick, but we take a little bit of blunts and blows through the human experience. And these plants allow you the catalyst to heal yourself and to grow and to move past those types of injuries. So yes, anyway, it's a really in-depth conversation. It's a real can of worms you asked there.
For another time.
Yeah.
That's fascinating. That really is. And we've just got a couple of comments and questions in the chat box that I just wanted to highlight. Jerry's pointed out quite rightly, and I might not have thought about this. I think about the dog wee, etc. But actually, to not pick plants from the roadside, because exhaust fumes are full of heavy metals that settle on plants.
Very good point.
And that in Cayman, obviously, there's herbicides and pesticides sprayed on both the land and from the air. So just to be really wary of that for those of you in Cayman. And in England, in the countryside, we'll continue to worry about foxwee. But the same will still apply.
Same in England as well. Really, that's why it's good to try and grow what you can in your garden.
Yeah, it's a very, very good point. It's an observation that I've noticed, and it's great to hear somebody else notice that, because it's something it is a big thing. When you go across the road, if you just smear your finger across the leaves of plants that grow across the road, you'll see the soot that's deposited on the leaves. And especially, or if you're harvesting plants that's growing around residential or commercial properties, they do like to use herbicides and pesticides and all those things. So you do want to be mindful of those types of things if you're going to harvest or collect something that's foraged things that's right next door.
Yeah, no, it's a good point. We had another question about how to use the powder. It sounds like there's a lot of different ways of using the powder. Swahil is asked, has an interest in how to use the powder.
In the moringa powder. So the moringa powder, for me, it's very, whether you're able to get access to the tree itself, it's a really easy process. It's one of the easiest plants to kind of make a powder out of. Essentially, you just break off the branches, you hang them up in the shade for 2 to 3 days. They'll dry to a crisp. You can put it under a bag or put them in a bag, and you can just as easily just rub the bag together and it'll grind to a powder. Or you can put it in a blender, a coffee grinder, and just blend it to a powder. Or you just go to a store and you can buy it in a bag. And with that powder is a lot of ways. You can just mix it in, whether it's a beverage, it could be a smoothie or a juice, you can mix it in. Or with food. I mean, I've incorporated all kinds of ways. In Mexico, I was working with a rehabilitation center, and they had a lot of kids there. So we would make natural ice cream, and we would put the powder in with the ice cream. So they think they're just eating ice cream made out of bananas, and there's moringa inside of it. So it's an easy thing. You can put it in your cereal, or if you're baking goods, when I would bake cookies here and there, I would put it in with the flour, with the cookies, and you're making moringa cookies next thing you know. So it's something really easy, or as simple as with let's say if it's rice or chicken or anything, you can just sprinkle it on like a normal spice or condiment, and it's a very soft, mild taste. So it's not very disruptive if you're eating it with other foods. And it's very easy, yeah, and it stores for a long time. One of the interesting things with moringa is that, unlike many other I guess supplements, herbal supplements, they're quick to lose their shelf life, their nutritional value. Whereas in Moringa, there's been some studies that have shown how long it's able to store its shelf life. So it's a really good plant that if you're able to get access to it, to incorporate. A lot of people, the easiest when they don't want to, I don't want to say lazy, but an easy way is capsules. Then you can just, everybody nowadays likes popping capsules or the easy convenience of a pill. So it's an easy way to get the powder, the leaves in. If you feel you can't be creative with putting it into your food, then you can just consume it as a capsule form as well.
Brilliant. Wow. There's a lot, isn't there? We've got an industry question here, which is interesting, but out of the box, but it's about the chances of big business utilizing this plant versus harmful chemicals to increase production. You talked about the chickens laying more eggs and things growing more quickly. Can it be utilized, do you reckon, in any way to help industry and production rather as well as ourselves?
Yeah. So there's a lot of studies and a lot of work in different countries that are investigating moringa. One of the, I think it's not as entertaining or as profitable as the initial stages of the research was, that to make it as a biofuel. So there have been some studies that have studied it using it as a biofuel. But more specifically, I think it's beneficial in the use of, agriculture and in livestock. They have done some farms, some facilities do use moringa in their production and scaling up and increasing production, and also being able to reduce their impact of using chemicals for their, whether it's for the livestock or for their the types of plants that they're growing. I've seen, it's kind of a both sectors. I've seen a lot of local people, especially with my work, when I was traveling through those countries, the workshops. So I originally started with about 20,000 moringa seeds, and I distributed those over those 3 years, over those 8 countries that I traveled through. And some of the communities or some of the families, I gave them a couple hundred seeds. So it gave them the ability to have moringa farms, which are very common in a lot of countries now. Even in Jamaica and some other countries, you'll see moringa farms. So it's really been a massive impact for a lot of communities and just families themselves, that now they have a means to produce something that's as in a lot of industries, especially like say the cosmetic and I think the supplemental industries are using moringa in a lot of different aspects. So it's quite a cash crop. And for people that can grow it in a production scale, in an industrial scale, commercial scale, it can really be a serious means of income for the community or for the family. On the flip side of that, and in more of a commercial industrial side, it is happening, but I don't think of it's such a industry that's been tainted so much, because the tree is such an easy tree to grow. It doesn't take really anything to grow it. It's something that it's in that, like I would say, it empowers people, where the pharmaceutical companies or some of the other companies, agricultural companies, they can't like patent it. They can't stop people from growing it themselves. So it's kind of something that they can't really control. They're monopolizing on it because it's a very popular plant, and it's quite one of the best ones that's been identified right now. But I don't think it's something that they can keep to themselves and stop the people, because it's actually been, if you go to countries like India, I mean, they've been using moringa for a millennia or something. I mean, it's really been used for such a long time that there's not much of like a commercialization. There is, but it's more of just people, regular people doing it.
Oh, yeah. Fantastic. So we are approaching 6 o'clock. I've got a couple more comments I just want to say from the chat, and I will just let anyone ask any other questions. But I do understand if anyone does need to leave, we won't be offended. We understand. I just wanted to give Jerry the chance to say anything if she wanted to, because we have another medical herbalist on our hands and in the group, which is fantastic, with a master's in medical herbalism. She's mentioned that one of the ways to support health has been to incorporate highly nutritive, I would have said nutritious, nutritive, is that a word? You can teach me, see? Herbs into existing diets to meet metabolic needs. So there's some, I can download the chat and let people know, but recognition of local plants is really important and tremendous. So in wherever you are, which is what you've both mentioned, seems to be the main point, and using them daily to meet dietary needs, a simple way to boost health. Physical, mental, emotional health are all intertwined. So thank you for that, Jerry, and thanks for joining. Is there anything else you wanted to add on that from your perspective?
No, I mean, I'm thrilled to hear other people talk about this information. My background, I grew up in the woodlands of the Midwest. I moved to Cayman in '92. I've been a practicing yoga teacher for 25 years. Holistic awareness has been a part of my life. I have 3 children. I made all of their food. I've cared for them holistically. And my investigation has been one of just personal education. And when my youngest started school, I went back into school, and that's when I started my master's in medical herbalism. And Katie, you're right. It's an intense growth curve. There's a tremendous amount of information to process. Microbiology, anatomy, toxicology, pathology. You're looking at a lot of different parameters to understand health, well-being, and the processes of disease. So in my practice, what I have recognized, and in my sort of interest about sustainable living, we have greatly reduced the variety of foods that we're exposed to. Erik, I commend you on studying nutrition, because that's where it's at. It's all about nutrition. We are what we eat. We are what we expose ourselves to. And so Rita, I was going to offer to you, if you have a medical herbalist or a naturopath or an integrative medical doctor near you, the source of pigmentation can be investigated, whether that would be something that is topical or whether that is endogenous, more of an endocrine situation. And, you know, in hearing both Erik and Katie talk about, I love Cleavers, and sadly we can't get it in Cayman, so I have to buy mine dried. But one of the more nutrient dense herbs that I love to collect when I'm in the UK is Nettles. I use Nettles almost daily in my life. I use it for people who've been exposed to a lot of toxicants, in particular patients that have suffered through chemotherapy. And I think just the awareness of plants is incredibly important. I've never been able to recommend any endemic species in Cayman because we're losing those rapidly. And in fact, you can't find most of them. So I recommend Western herbs, and I recommend those that are available easily, and they are not on the United Plant Savers list. But the incorporation of something like Moringa or Cleavers, not only do they have hundreds of active constituents, but they are beneficial from a nutrient standpoint. And that was the point of what I was adding to the chat, was just incorporating these is really just boosting your overall well-being. And when Katie talked about, I don't know whether it was a bus driver or a bush doctor who gave you the Moringa, but it cracked me up, because that's a lot of what we know traditionally from Herbalist is, you know, we use these predominantly for these reasons, but many of them, because they have so many active properties, they will do many things in the body depending on where you are most depleted and most in need. So very simple herbs like Cleavers and Moringa and Nettles on a daily basis will increase vitality and well-being. And I'm really thrilled to be here and really thrilled to hear you guys talk. And it's just wonderful. I'm very excited.
Oh, that's amazing. It's just like opening a door and suddenly like,
Yeah.
wow. And then, you know, people like me, I get
Thanks,
really
Jerry.
like, now I want to know everything, but I know.
That's how I felt.
I want to know if I do, but I don't. It's amazing.
Yeah.
And
Thanks, Jerry. That was really good point. And
Oh, thank
and just
you,
to
thank you.
piggyback, my pleasure. You know, funny when Rita had asked that. I'm not familiar with a lot of the plants that grow there in the UK, but when we were Katie was talking about nettles, I definitely thought as nettles would be something that you can use.
Yeah.
I've seen it used really interestingly. So when I was in Colombia, a Pachamama, a older woman I was living with, she would it grew in her backyard like a weed everywhere, going crazy, and she would collect it and cook it, and we would have it in the soup, and it was really, really tasty. And that's an easy way to consume nettles. Also, you can get it in a supplement, in a capsule. But another interesting way, when I was in Ecuador and living with a family, they got nettles, and this one of the children had diabetes. Now, I definitely think it could be beneficial, probably not as applicable to maybe something that you were saying, Rita, that's like a topical condition. And whether it's the same thing, if it's the systematic of something as an autoimmune disease that could surface as something on your skin topically. So you'd have to find what's the root cause, but something that can definitely help treat it or manage it was how they were using it in Ecuador. And they would get the kid, strip him down naked, and get nettles and like slash spat, like, not, it's not hard, but you know, you're beating them, you know, like you're touching them, and it's nettles, so it's not very fun whatsoever. So for about 10-15 minutes, they're all over their body, and it's, you know, like you're on fire. He's like crying, he's like, this is not fun. And then after that, he goes into clay, like a clay bath. They had like a big pile of wet clay, and then they put the clay all over him and rub him down with the clay and let it sit for a few minutes. And then he goes and takes a cold bath. And after that, he felt like $1,000,000. I mean, his skin felt good. It was smooth. It was just crazy. It was a really interesting. And for a couple of days thereafter, he just felt really good, very energetic. And I think it improves, you know, obviously blood flow to the skin, and it can do a lot of other benefits. But it's a great plant that you mentioned, Jerry. And I think that's definitely something I would kind of look into a little bit. I think could be beneficial to what you're asking for.
well,
It's like old school microneedling.
Yeah. Yes.
It's all been done before.
that's
And
interesting.
it was for free.
And it
Exactly.
out there, just everywhere. It's interesting you mentioned that, because at the top of the show, as they say, I mentioned a talk that I had seen with Katie that inspired me to bring her on here, and that was all about nettles. And so she was we had nettle tea, we did nettle tea tasting, and she talked us through all the different
Cool.
nettles. And
It's my favourite herb of all time.
So
Yeah.
you
I
picked
love
up
it.
It's now, it's now everywhere. I mean,
yeah.
yeah.
And when you mentioned about the different properties when in the different seasons, you know, whether it's dried or whether you're picking it in certain seasons and using it for it's just fascinating.
And when you said about the moringa tree, you're saying every part's used. I think that with nettle, I use the seeds, I use the leaf, I use the, you know, we make clothes out of it, I use the root. Yeah, there's a similarity. Like some of the things you're saying about moringa, I think, oh, nettle.
this is where it's just brilliant. So we're 10 past 8 now. No, we're not. That would be very late. We're 10 past 6 now here UK time. So I just will give a couple of minutes or a minute just for anyone to say anything else. I will say thank you so much. It's been really eye-opening and just makes me want to learn more, but also, as I said, makes me a little scared because I want to learn more.
I love that comment from Rita about Botanic Park, a place where you can promote Yeah, that would be amazing, wouldn't it? If it was kind of
Amazing.
revitalized and rejuvenated. I mean, because there is a knowledge there.
Yeah.
As we're saying, there is a.
Anik's got something to say here. I don't know if that's connected. I'll pass on, but I think there's definitely a general feeling that there isn't enough understanding or knowledge or awareness or teaching about this. Anik, did you want to share that?
Well, first of all, I just want to say this was fantastic. Kate, thank you very much for this connection. And it was really good to listen to both Katie and Erik. Erik, I'm so sorry I missed your class on Saturday up to this morning. My team was telling me about it. From the perspective of the National Trust, I'm also happy to see Jerry here because we have a special session with Jerry coming up in April about the healing energy of plants, etc. I can't wait for that. But what I realized is that unfortunately, some of these sessions are way too late for you all in the UK to join. So we might look at the videoing of some of these sessions so you all have access to them. Kate and I will share them with you because just so you all know, we've started a series of lectures from a historic and an environmental perspective to really introduce the community more to these types of discussions. And we're hoping, Erik, to be able to re-engage you later in the year because I think the response from what I got was fantastic. We do have Hannah Reed, who's a National Trust member of Council. She's coming up to do something. She's known as the bush, she's the bush girl? Bush medicine girl is kind of her moniker. But we're doing something really unique with her in terms of how we pair the introductions of some of these things. So we'll keep you posted on that. But I will try to make some of this available to you all so that even if you can't watch it live, that you can come back and get the video. But we recognize that this is truly a need in our community and we're trying to start getting more engagement around it. So I'm excited about this one.
Fantastic, thank you. And thank you, Anika, thank you for the National Trust for putting us together with Erik. And I had a chat with Erik just to say, I don't understand, I've got Katie and I have this vision to like have the UK side of things talked about and then the Cayman side of things talked about. Katie can talk about her Cayman experience, but I need that person. Who is that person? I thought, well, that can't be that hard to find. And I was with Rita and the team chatting and we were Googling and I was trying to get in touch with various people and I was like, how can this be so hard? So when I said, that's why I was so excited, I found Erik and they were like, yes, you're the one. But
yeah, Erik, I could do about another 3 hours talking to you. Listening to you.
Yeah, we
I think I want to read your book.
Yeah, I
no, just when I
definitely pick you.
Said that, yeah.
Go ahead. Sorry.
I'm done, I think. No, just to say it's great that you're doing what you're doing, and it wasn't a surprise to you that I struggled to find somebody because you were aware that it's a need there. So brilliant.
Yes. Yeah. Thanks, Katie. Definitely, I could speak to you for hours. I mean, definitely pick your brain and ask you all kinds of questions and inspired by your journey too. It's very, it's for us that we grow organically a passion into these topics and to, I guess, kind of follow our passion and our dreams to maybe make this an occupation or as a career path is kind of daunting sometimes. And because of how much is entailed in it. But I really commend and admire people that have gone the journey or are on the journey. And it's a continuous journey, but it's just, I think we need more practitioners that are in these fields and to help. I think the everyday common people are really searching for these types of things as well. And there's not enough of it out there. So I commend you and I really thank you for your time and what you had to share. And Kate, I definitely thank you for reaching out to me. I myself try to be a sponge and learn as much as I can from my roots here on the island. And it's a struggle. There's really not a lot of information out there. What does exist, if it's literature, is very limited. It doesn't really kind of cover or include too much of medicinal applications. Whenever you come to botany, any of the herbal books or plant books, they're more of like botanical specifications instead of medicinal applications. And even talking to old-time Caymanian, it's hard to talk to Caymanians that are familiar with a lot of our traditional uses of the medicines and the plants here. So I myself, I'm always trying to pull and grab whatever I can. So don't feel bad. I definitely struggle to myself find other avenues of learning and gathering more stories and info, so I can always I guess be improving what I can share in my knowledge as well. So I'm glad to contribute. I'm happy anytime. So thank you for having me.
Most welcome. Well, thank
Sorry,
you.
Kate, just very quickly, if I could mention to everybody, we're going to feature this in our newsletter that goes out today. I did take a screenshot, so I'm hoping that you all are okay with that.
No
Take
problem.
one now while we can smile. I got my bad side, Anik. Come on now.
All right. So, all right, team. So I
fix up a little bit.
There you go.
See that, you know?
All right. So let's see. Everybody's on camera if you can, please. That would be fabulous. And very nice, very nice, very nice. And I will edit this by screenshotting. Oh, wait, let me lower it so you can't see me taking a picture. Don't move, don't move.
Still.
Yes, we got it. Thank you all.
I want to say,
Can I just ask about Erik? Katie mentioned a book. Perhaps I missed that at the top there. Is there a book? No, you were joking. Okay,
I would read the book.
Oh, okay. I thought maybe there was some publication that that we could pick up.
Not yet. I'll let
come.
you know when the release. Yeah, it's in the making still.
Sounds good.
Wonderful.
Thank you, everyone. I've really enjoyed it. I'm sorry, I'm not very great at speaking. Oh, you probably guessed. And 10 minutes is just, I get a bit flustered. But yeah, you could talk for days on these plants, and there's so many levels and nuances, and so yeah, thanks for bearing with me on that.
Of course. Well, we're all
Fantastic.
connected now. And that's part of the process. Part of this is about learning, but it's also about meeting and connecting. If anyone wants to reach out to anyone that's been on this call and you don't know how to find them, just come through me. I have the details. We'll be sharing more information. I do have the recording as well. And also Katie's got a little video of how to find the Cleavers,
yeah.
which
If anybody wants that, I'll happily send you that.
I'll publish it on the page as well. Thank you so much, everybody. I will leave you to your afternoons and your evenings, and I can't wait till the next one. Here we go. Please stay in touch. Keep an eye on our event.
Bye. I'll speak to you again, Erik.
Yeah, we definitely will catch up again. It was a pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. Bye.